Welcome, fellow learner. Today we have an incredibly rich set of source material. It's essentially the distilled curriculum of a really intense 6-day deep dive into modern product management,
Yeah, or PM.
right? PM. And this isn't just a checklist of definitions. This feels more like a strategic roadmap.
It is. I mean, this resource really takes you from understanding the PM's foundational identity on day one all the way through to the advanced execution and influence skills you'd need to operate as, say, a mid-level PM by day 6.
Okay.
So our mission in this deep dive is to synthesize this massive volume of knowledge, connecting the theory of strategy to the practice of execution and give you the essential nuggets of insight from each day.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're summarizing the core curriculum. We got the PM foundations, the engine room, which is Agile and Scrum, then how to write that all-important product requirements
The
document.
DRD.
The PRD, exactly. And then the crucial soft skill stakeholder management and these structured communication frameworks. This is our shortcut to fluency. So let's start right at the beginning, understanding the PM's role and why it's just inherently a balancing act.
Day one immediately grounds the PM role not in tasks, but in intention. The core definition is that they operate at a critical three-way intersection.
Okay.
You have to find that sweet spot where three distinct and often conflicting forces overlap.
That classic product triad. So on one side, you have user needs. That's the problem we're solving, the value we bring to the customer. On another, you've got business goals, the viability that makes sure the company, survives, whether that's revenue or market share.
Sure, something tangible for the business.
And finally, technical feasibility, the execution challenge. Can our engineering team actually build this thing efficiently?
Exactly. And the PM is the only role that is mandated to prioritize all three. This isn't about simply meeting one requirement. It's about optimizing the whole system.
And that's where the tension comes in.
It is. For instance, the engineering team might propose the easiest build, right? High feasibility. But if it doesn't drive retention, so low viability, or solve a user pain point low value, it's just a wasted effort. The PM has to manage those trade-offs every single day.
Let's talk about those trade-offs, because that's where the theory gets very real. So if a PM prioritizes some really high user value thing, like a fully custom bespoke UI,
Sure.
but that requires 6 months of engineering work and it misses a critical market window, well, that's a low feasibility and low viability.
You failed, right?
Precisely. The sources implicitly confirm that great PMs choose the optimal trade-off, not the perfect one. They might sacrifice some ideal user experience for, say, a Kong API integration that gets a minimum viable product, an MVP out the door.
Got it. Hitting that viability metric of speed to market.
Yeah, the trade-off is constantly shifting based on the product stage, but the PM owns that decision. And the scope of this role is just massive. The sources list 8 critical pillars that make up the day-to-day work, and they range from the really abstract to the super granular. Okay, so what are they?
The list starts with the high-level strategy, product vision and strategy, answering that 10-year where are we going question. But that quickly descends into tactical execution, like user research.
And the sources are specific here. They call out key techniques. Using jobs to be done, the JTBD frameworks, to understand why a user hires a product.
Right. What's
Yep.
their motivation? And also conducting interviews and deep diving into the analytics.
All that research then feeds directly into what I think is the hardest part of the job, prioritization methodologies. We can't build everything, so we need tools.
Yeah.
The source highlights Rice, Moscow, and a simple value versus effort analysis. These are not just academic exercises.
No, not at all. And Rice is a wonderful example of a tool designed to force objectivity. It considers reach, how many people are affected, impact, confidence, how sure are we of that impact, and effort.
But there's a catch there, isn't there?
There is. Here's the key insight that often trips up new PMs. That confidence score is highly subjective. A strong PM uses the Rice score as a communication tool to show stakeholders why something is ranked where it is.
Not just as a sacred number.
Exactly. It's not sacred law. If confidence is low, that signals a need for more discovery, not immediate delivery.
That's a crucial distinction. It's a conversation starter, not a calculator output. Okay, so once it's prioritized, the PM then translates that strategy into clear instructions by writing user stories and acceptance criteria.
Yes, turning the why into the what for the engineers. Rounding out the pillars, we have road mapping, visualizing the strategy, and relentless cross-functional collaboration.
And maybe most importantly, measuring success, This has to go beyond just counting users.
It does. The measurement toolkit here is really comprehensive. It includes the foundational business metrics from the AARR: funnel acquisition, activation, retention, and revenue.
The pirate metric.
The pirate metrics, yes. But also, crucially, sentiment metrics like CSAT, which is customer satisfaction, and NPS, Net Promoter Score. You need both. You need the hard business data and the emotional user feedback to really determine success.
This whole exhaustive list really clarifies why the modern product team has to operate with clear boundaries. The source material neatly summarizes the roles based on what they own.
It does. The PM owns the why the problem or the opportunity.
UX owns the what experience, the solution design.
Engineering owns the how the technical build.
And data owns the measurement, that continuous feedback loop.
That clarity is what enables something called dual-track agile, which Day One also introduces. It's this principle that the team isn't just delivering code, the delivery track,
Right.
but is also continuously investigating and validating problems. That's the discovery track. This ensures the team is always working on the highest value, validated problems, moving away from just blindly shipping features.
Okay, so that's day one. Day two then seems to be about the mental shift. You can know all the pillars, but if you don't have the right brain for the job, you're going to struggle. This feels like a shift from tactical work toward strategic influence.
That's it. The sources place problem-first thinking and user centricity as paramount. Never start with a feature idea. You always start with validating the pain point.
And the philosophical core here, which every successful PM has to internalize, is outcomes output.
Yes.
Let's elaborate on this a bit. Output is easy to measure. We shipped 4 features this sprint. Outcome is much more difficult. Did those 4 features increase our customer retention rate by 3%? So why is this outcome-driven approach so hard to maintain in practice?
It's hard because it requires patience and accountability. Output is visible, it's immediate. Stakeholders love seeing features being built. Outcomes, however, they take time to measure, and they can fail. A PM who focuses only on output is, well, they're a feature factory manager. A PM who focuses on outcomes accepts the risk that their hypothesis might be wrong, and that might require them to kill a project.
And that takes courage.
It does. It also necessitates systems thinking, understanding that changing one feature might impact 10 others, and embracing comfort with ambiguity because the product space is inherently messy and it's always evolving.
And since the PM often has no direct authority, Day 2 really emphasizes influence through collaboration and trust. You lead by clarity, not by your title.
With that mindset established, we then move into the product development lifecycle, tracing the 3 phases of an idea's journey.
Okay, phase 1 is discovery. This is all about validating the user value, the business viability, and the technical feasibility before a single line of code is written.
Right. And this phase produces opportunity briefs, these short documents that define the problem and the initial hypothesis, which are then ruthlessly stress-tested.
Then phase 2 is delivery. This is where the execution engine kicks in. Writing the detailed PRD, the actual building, quality assurance, or QA, and the product rollout.
This is where we shift from should we build it to let's build it right.
And the crucial third phase is iteration. I feel like too many projects die here. This isn't just maintenance. It's analyzing the data, learning, optimizing, and then making the hardest choices.
Like what?
Well, do we invest more to scale this feature, or do we use the kill criteria we set up front because it failed to achieve the desired outcomes? It's a harsh reality check.
It is. And to manage this whole journey, PMs rely on 4 core non-negotiable PM artifacts. This is the documentation that keeps the team aligned.
So we've mentioned the PRD, the blueprint for execution, and the roadmap, which visualizes the strategic initiatives over time, usually outcome-based, now, next, later.
Then there's the backlog, which is the prioritized list of all work, big and small, and it's structured into epics.
The high-level themes like improved checkout flow.
Right, and user stories, which are the specific estimable tasks like, as a shopper, I want to save my credit card securely.
And finally, metrics. The sources break these down beautifully. You need a single North Star metric, the ultimate measure of success, often daily active users or lifetime value.
But you also need guardrail metrics. These are the metrics you monitor to make sure you don't damage the user experience or the business health while you're chasing that North Star.
That guardrail definition is so important. For example, if your North Star is increasing daily active users, a guardrail metric might be page load latency or customer support requests per day.
Yes. If DAU goes up but latency spikes and support tickets soar, you haven't succeeded. You've just created technical debt and a negative user experience.
Then you use leading indicators like clicks on a new feature, which predict future retention.
And lagging indicators like quarterly revenue, which measures past performance, to track progress.
And that distinction between leading and lagging is what allows a PM to course correct in real time. If you wait for the lagging indicators to tell you something's wrong, it's already too late.
So true.
Okay, so we have the strategic mindset and the documented artifacts. Now, how do we actually get the engineering team humming? Day 3 takes us into the engine room, Agile principles, and the mechanics of the Scrum framework.
Right. And the sources clarify that Agile is a philosophy. It's a set of values focused on speed, feedback, and customer collaboration. The core principles demand adaptability, prioritizing frequent working increments over these huge Big Bang launches.
And truly empowering teams to make decisions autonomously. It's designed to be the complete opposite of waterfall planning.
The key idea is that responding to change quickly is just more valuable than sticking rigidly to an outdated plan. But to implement these, fluid principles, you need structure. And that structure is typically the Scrum framework.
Okay, so let's walk through that.
Scrum defines the roles, events, and artifacts that are necessary to deliver working software frequently. Let's look at the roles. You have the product owner. This is often the PM who owns the vision and maximizes the value of the work the team delivers. They are the voice of the customer and the business.
Then you have the Scrum Master, who acts as the servant leader. They don't manage the team's work, but they protect the team from distractions, they coach them on the Scrum process, and they help remove organizational impediments.
And finally, the development team, the cross-functional group SO engineers, QA, sometimes UX, who are responsible for delivering the product increment. It's crucial that they are self-organizing and accountable to each other.
The operational heartbeat of Scrum then revolves around these time-boxed events. Everything begins and ends with the sprint, that fixed duration, usually between 2 and 4 weeks.
A sprint starts with sprint planning. This is where the team collaboratively determines what they can realistically achieve from the prioritized product backlog, and that creates the sprint backlog. It's a commitment exercise.
And the PM has to ensure the stories are clear and ready or groomed before that planning even begins.
For sure. During the sprint, we have the notorious daily stand-up or daily scrum, that 15-minute sync where everyone reports progress, checks for blockages, and realigns. The goal isn't status reporting to the PM, it's synchronization among the developers themselves.
At the end of the sprint, 2 events happen. The sprint review, which is an external event where the team demonstrates the increment to stakeholders and gathers actionable feedback. This is the PM's chance to ensure everyone is still aligned.
Right. And that's followed by the retrospective, which is the internal team meeting focused purely on process improvement. What went well, what didn't, how can we be better next time?
The retrospective is the mechanism for continuous organizational learning. Without it, Agile just stagnates.
And the artifacts tie the whole process together. The product backlog, which is the prioritized list of everything, the sprint backlog, the specific tasks for the current sprint, and the increment, which is the usable, tested, potentially shippable software they produce.
So where does the PM as product owner spend their energy during this cycle? The sources really emphasize that the PM has to lead without direct authority. Their contribution is strategic and communicative.
It's intense orchestration. They are constantly aligning strategy with team execution, making sure that the small stories the engineers are building directly contribute to the larger outcome goals defined in the roadmap.
They also facilitate collaboration between design and engineering, and crucially, remove ambiguity from the requirements.
I think the most challenging but also most vital responsibility listed here is protecting the team's focus and communicating progress risks externally. The PM acts as a shield against, executive whims or non-critical stakeholder requests.
The drive-by.
Drive-bys, exactly. This allows the engineering team to enter that valuable flow state. This requires a strong backbone.
Absolutely. And to prove they're managing the process effectively, PMs have to rely on Agile metrics to objectively measure team performance and predictability.
First up is velocity. This is the team's measure of capacity. So how many story points or units of work they can reliably complete in an average sprint. It is the foundation of predictability.
So if a team has a velocity of 30, the PM knows they can safely plan about 30 points for the next sprint.
Pretty much. Then there's the burn down chart, which is a simple visual tracking tool. It shows the amount of work remaining against the time remaining in the sprint. If the line tracking the remaining work is above the ideal line, the team is likely falling behind and needs to adjust scope or expectations. It's an immediate diagnostic tool.
The final two metrics measure speed, but they highlight the difference between internal process and, say, market agility. Cycle time measures the time from when the engineer starts working on a ticket to when that ticket is complete and ready to deploy. It measures build efficiency.
Whereas lead time measures the total time from when an idea is first put into the backlog until the final product is released to the customer. A short lead time indicates a highly agile, efficient organization that can move ideas quickly from discovery to market.
And reducing lead time is often a primary strategic goal for product organizations because it equates directly to competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we move from the process framework Agile to the central artifact used within that process, the product requirements document, or PRD. If day 3 was about how we organize, day 4 is about what we organize around. This is the blueprint.
The PRD is the single most important execution document a PM creates. It's the contract between the PM, engineering, and design. And the sources emphasize that its primary role is to synthesize complex, validated ideas into simple, measurable, and testable requirements.
The 4 primary functions listed really drive home its value. First, it aligns all cross-functional teams. If marketing, legal, engineering, and QA are all referencing the same document, there's just no room for guessing.
Second, it provides that critical context. It clarifies what is being built and, more importantly, why. This ties the tactical execution, the functional requirements, directly back to the strategic problem statement that was validated in the discovery phase. This is the defense against feature fatigue.
Third, it defines success metrics up front. If you can't define what success looks like before you start building, you will not know when you get there. This prevents scope creep based on shifting goalposts.
And finally, it absolutely reduces ambiguity and guides development testing efforts. A vague PRD results in vague software, which necessitates endless QA cycles and rework. A strong PRD allows engineering to estimate accurately and QA to write perfect test plans against measurable criteria.
The source material provides a really comprehensive 14-point structure, which should be the standard for any mid-level PM document. We should probably walk through this and discuss not just the definitions, but the importance of the sections that often get neglected.
Okay, starting with the easy parts. 1, title metadata, and 2, executive summary. The summary is critical for executive readers. It has to be 5 sentences or less, summarizing the problem, the solution, and the ask. If they read nothing else, they must read this.
Then we get into the foundation. 3, problem statement. This is often the weakest link in a new PM's PRD. It has to define the user pain point, backed by data, and clearly state the business opportunity that pain point presents.
Right. If the problem isn't validated and severe, the project should stop right here. Followed by 4, goals and non-goals. This is the PM exercising strategic discipline. Goals are the measurable outcomes. Non-goals explicitly state what the team is not building.
Which protects against scope creep, especially from stakeholders who say, hey, while you're in there, can you just...
Oh, that's the worst. Exactly. Moving to the user perspective. 5, user personas, defining who this is for. And 6, user stories. Remember, user stories are concise, and they follow that as a user type, I want features, so that benefits structure. They frame functionality in terms of value.
Now, the technical backbone. 7, functional requirements detail what the system must do. For example, the system must send a confirmation email upon checkout. These are the visible features.
But the commonly neglected sibling is 8, non-functional requirements, NFRs. These are mission critical. NFRs cover performance, security, scalability, accessibility, and reliability.
This is a huge trap for new PMs. If you neglect NFRs, you are building technical debt from day one.
100%. Say your functional requirement is the system must load a feed of 100 products. The NFR must specify the feed must load in under 500 milliseconds, 99.9% of the time, even under a peak load of 10,000 concurrent users. That NFR radically changes the engineering solution required.
Wow, okay. Points 9 through 11 connect the document to the real world. 9, UX/UI links connect the specs to the actual prototypes. 10, success metrics, KPIs, state exactly how we measure the outcome, reiterating the goals.
And 11, dependencies risks. No product lives in isolation. Dependencies are what we need from other teams, like legal approval or database access. Risks are technical or market issues that could derail the project. The PM has to proactively list these and define mitigation strategies.
And finally, the operational components. 12, timeline. 13, open questions, undecided issues that need stakeholder input. And 14, Appendix for deep technical documentation or research reports.
The guiding principle is this. A great PRD acts as the living source of truth. It must be clear, measurable, testable, and must always use data and user personas to justify decisions. And as we said, it should be iterative. If discovery reveals new information mid-sprint, the PRD needs updating, not ignored.
We've established the strategy, the mindset, the execution framework, and the blueprint. But none of that is operational unless the PM can wield influence. Days 5 and 6 shift entirely to the soft skills that drive hard results.
Right. Day 5 addresses the complex reality of managing a massive, diverse audience, stakeholder engagement. PMs interact with everyone from the CEO to the customer support team, legal, engineering leads, external vendors. They all have different agendas.
And the sources immediately provide structured tools to manage this complexity, starting with the power interest grid. This is about prioritizing your communication efforts.
Yeah, the grid places stakeholders into 4 quadrants based on their ability to affect the project. That's power, and how much they care about the outcome. That's interest. High power, high interest stakeholders, like key executives or sponsors, require close management.
Whereas low power, low interest stakeholders, like some periphery teams, only require monitoring.
That distinction is so crucial for time management. You can't afford to spend all your time updating someone who has little interest or power. We also have the salience model, which adds another layer, examining legitimacy, power, and urgency of a stakeholder's claim.
And tying it all into an action plan is the engagement matrix. This tracks their specific interests, concerns, the necessary communication cadence, the channels you use, and most critically, decision rights.
Using the RACI model, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, must be documented so everyone knows who has the final say.
And since PMs lack direct management authority, the entire job really revolves around influencing without authority. The sources detail 7 specific tactics for this.
The foundation is clarity and transparency. When you lay out the data, the problem, and the path forward transparently, the decision often makes itself. This links directly to establishing shared goals.
Right. If the PM can demonstrate that prioritizing feature A helps the sales VP hit their quarterly goal, well, the sales VP is suddenly aligned.
Exactly. We also have to stress the importance of pre-alignment. Never bring a critical decision or a risk or a piece of bad news to a major meeting for the first time. You have to discuss it one-on-one with key stakeholders beforehand, gathering consensus and addressing objections privately.
That's a pro move.
It is. And the combination of using data and narrative effectively, data provides the proof, but the narrative, the story, provides the emotional weight and context necessary to move people. The numbers tell you what happened. The story tells you why people should care.
Other relational tactics include reciprocity, offering support to other teams in exchange for their resources, and building trust through consistent delivery. But the true leadership skill here seems to be managing trade-offs.
Trade-off communication is where the PM earns their stripes. It's not just announcing a decision, it's presenting the options A, B, or C, explaining the quantifiable benefits and sacrifices of each choice, and then presenting the recommendation based on maximizing value.
This shows the PM is thoughtful, analytical, and ready to take ownership of hard decisions. And finally, mastering meeting mechanics that drive decisions. Meetings should result in clear actions, ownership, and next steps, not just passive information sharing.
To maintain this crucial alignment, the source suggests a predictable alignment rhythm for weekly syncs, structured around 5 key topics: progress, risks blockers, dependencies, decisions needed, and action centers. This predictability is vital for managing external expectations.
But the best engagement strategy falls flat if the communication itself is messy. Day 6 focuses on mastering the specific frameworks required for communicating up the chain to busy executives who prioritize conciseness.
Right. We have 2 primary forms defined here: the quick update and the deep decision memo. For quick, essential updates, the sources mandate the CSA framework: context, signal, ask.
Let's break that down. Context is the immediate background. Why are we talking about this? Why does it matter right now? Keep it short.
Then signal is the key insight, the core finding, the major metric change, or the most critical risk identified. It's the punchline.
And the ask is the explicit call to action or decision required. The power of CSA is that it forces the PM to respect the executive's time. They get the setup, the data point, and the immediate need in the first 3 sentences, allowing them to engage or delegate immediately.
The opposite of that is the narrative memo. This is written communication designed for complex, high-stakes decisions, typically 1 to 3 pages long, and it replaces slide decks. This is how you leverage data and narrative for deep consensus.
The structured approach here is designed to prevent premature conclusions and demonstrate thorough analysis. The 8-point structure is mandatory. It starts with the title and summary,
GTL.
TLDR, and context, the background. Then signal, the detailed findings and supporting data.
What follows is the analytical section. Options, listing all viable paths, not just the recommendation. Then, the recommendation, which is the PM's preferred choice, backed by the data. This separation shows objectivity. You considered the alternatives before choosing a path.
The memo then concludes with the operational details. Plan and timeline, risks and mitigation, revisiting the PRD risks, and the final explicit ask.
Again, the ask has to be unambiguous. We seek approval to allocate $50,000 for pilot testing option B by the end of the quarter.
These structures reinforce the communication best practices listed. Be concise, use numbers, metrics, and timelines to ground your arguments in fact. Always specify the owner and the next step so the communication drives momentum.
And avoid jargon or match the detail level to the audience. And across all communications, the golden rule remains. Make the ask explicit. Never leave an executive wondering what they need to do next.
So we've moved from the philosophical definition of the PM to the operational mastery of documentation and influence. By absorbing this 6-day curriculum, the learner has really established the framework for mid-level PM thinking. The foundational knowledge is comprehensive.
That's absolutely correct. But as the sources immediately stress, this is just the theory, true proficiency requires practice in specific areas. The document highlights 5 focus areas requiring immediate upskilling and dedicated practice over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Number 1, problem discovery skills. This is the ongoing, continuous work of a PM. It means developing real expertise in conducting effective user interviews, mastering the process of mapping user journeys to find pain points,
and learning how to rigorously execute problem framing. This is critical because a mid-level PM shouldn't just be handed a problem. They should be identifying and rigorously framing the right problems. They have to learn how to synthesize insights, taking 20 hours of interview data and turning it into 3 actionable opportunities.
Number 2 is pure writing practice. This is the daily output that others rely on. It means not just writing one PRD, but writing repeatedly until the structure is second nature. Practice refining user stories until they are perfect. Master those crisp CSA updates and force yourself to draft those longer analytical narrative memos.
Third, and absolutely essential for career progression, is data literacy. This requires deliberate study. You must become fluent in funnel analysis, so identifying where users drop off in the journey, reading retention curves to understand long-term user behavior, mastering A/B testing methodologies.
So designing valid experiments.
Valid experiments, yes, and continuously monitoring those vital guardrail metrics we talked about earlier. Data is the PM's strongest ally in influence.
The soft skills return with focus area 4. Stakeholder management practice. This moves beyond the power interest grid theory into actual execution. This means actively practicing realignment strategies, anticipating stakeholder concerns, and becoming exceptionally fluent in trade-off communication.
Always presenting decisions as strategic sacrifices, not compromises. And finally, 5, framework mastery. Fluency means being able to deploy these tools rapidly and effectively. This includes RICE, Moscow, JTBD, the principles of OKRs for goal setting, and designing outcome-based road mapping.
Not feature lists, but a vision of desired impacts over time, like increase user mastery instead of build tutorial 2.0.
Exactly.
This curriculum smartly pivots immediately to application, providing a detailed action plan, the homework for day 7. Knowledge isn't power until it's applied.
And let's first acknowledge the giants of the field referenced here for reinforcement, inspired by Marty Kagan, and Continuous Discovery Habits by Teresa Torres for foundational work and discovery best practices. And for communication, the explicit inclusion of the Amazon 6-page memo writing guides really underscores the importance of rigorous written communication at high levels.
Okay, now for the actionable tasks. Task 1 is critical. Write a full PRD. The learner has to choose a simple product idea, a feature at work, a consumer product, an app feature, and structure it using 7 required core components.
Problem statement, personas, user stories, functional and non-functional requirements, success metrics, timeline, and risks. This forces the synthesis of day 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Task 2 immediately reinforces communication structure. Practice stakeholder communication by writing a CSA crisp update for a fictional project risk or opportunity. And the learner has to be strict. 1 sentence of context, 1 of signal, 1 of ask.
Task 3 challenges the learner to strategic thinking. Create an outcome-based roadmap using that now, next, later structure. The key is ensuring the 3 initiatives in each bucket are defined by the outcome they deliver, not just a list of features.
And perhaps the most impactful practice is Task 4, the daily PM drill. This is continuous, micro-level skill building. Every day, the learner is advised to complete 5 micro-tasks. Write 1 user story, write 1 set of acceptance criteria, perform 1 ITERY prioritization on a real-world task.
Draft 1 CSA summary for a recent piece of news and actively identify 1 user pain point in a product they use. This daily repetition is how theory becomes professional reflex.
Finally, Task 6 focuses on domain focus. Recognizing that PMs need specialized knowledge, the learner is advised to select a PM domain, say B2B SaaS, which the sources suggest is often a strong strategic fit, and analyze 5 relevant job descriptions. This reveals what the market demands and helps the learner align their upskilling priorities.
This whole action plan moves the learner from a passive absorber of knowledge to an active producer of the essential PM artifacts.
This deep dive has covered the complete landscape, moving from the conceptual why of the PM role and that 3-way intersection, through the engineering how of Scrum, the organizational blueprint of the PRD, and the essential who of stakeholder influence. This is a monumental foundation.
It is, and we've established that the PM influences primarily through clarity, data, and narrative, but the source emphasizes focusing your energy on mastering trade-off communication. And this raises an important, provocative question for you to mull over this week as you begin your practical tasks. When you look at the successful products you use every day, whether it's a social media platform, a banking app, or enterprise software, can you identify the core trade-offs their PMs chose to make?
Think about that. Which feature was sacrificed for speed? Which user group was deprioritized to optimize for the primary business model? That discipline, the strategic documented decision to sacrifice one thing in favor of maximizing value in another, that is the true mark of product leadership.
We hope this synthesis helps you turn this vast knowledge into actionable application as you write your first PRD. Keep building and keep learning.